Over the years, I've looked at some wild mod packs, especially for the Fallout games, with thousands of mods that can be applied to completely transform the original experience into something totally unrecognizable. I've even looked at the bigger released fan-made expansions like Fallout London, which did an incredible job of reimagining the world in a new location. And Fallout is such a popular game franchise that its mod scene actually expands well beyond its own games and even into many other game engines. Today, I'm checking out some really cool looking Fallout inspired mods built in completely different games because what I found is ridiculous in the best ways possible. Let's dive into it. So believe it or not, this is basically running on the Doom engine. This is Fallout Bakersfield, a full remake of the iconic Necropolis area from Fallout 1, which was itself inspired by the real-life California city of Bakersfield. Every detail from the weapons and textures to sound effects and characters has been expertly recreated with an obsessive level of care and detail. And watching this extended gameplay demo honestly left my jaw on the floor. It's just so hard to keep in mind that this is based on the Doom engine and an unofficial fan-made recreation of a Fallout experience, because it looks like a full-blown AA indie production. Now, there's been some excellent GZ Doom releases over the years. That's basically the open source Doom style engine that so many modders use. One notable example is this sci-fi immersive sim Sulaco. It really pushes the engine to the limits of what it's capable of doing. And Fallout Bakersfield has similarly incredible features, like these natural landscapes that you just don't expect from a GZD Doom project. The atmosphere is extremely strong with impressive skyboxes, weather effects, fog that adds to the oppressive and worn down tone. Most outdoor environments in Doom style games feel more like an impression of nature than something that actually looks natural, but Bakersfield is pushing that much further. The interiors are also faithful to the original game, which had surprisingly detailed buildings for its time. Here, the ruined, decayed look is dialed way up, but not in a way that feels distracting or overdone. It looks like what we might have imagined the world of Fallout to look like when we played it as kids. And I think a lot of that is that this game looks like a one-to-one translation of Fallout 1, but into an actual FPS experience. There's no ray tracing or advanced 3D effects going on here. It feels extremely authentic. And the weapon animations here feel like borderline wizardry, considering that this is actually sprite work and not 3D models. A lot of boomer shooters tend to sidestep some of the sprite work by using actual 3D models in the game, often for first-person weapons, pickups, and sometimes even their enemies, but according to the developer, everything in Bakersfield is a sprite-based recreation of the original Fallout assets and totally custom for the mod. That includes all of the enemies and environmental assets like posters, items, cars, graffiti, etc. Everywhere you look, it's basically Fallout, but just better. Honestly, if I didn't actually know what the first Fallout game looked like and you told me this was Fallout 1, I'd probably believe you. It feels like the Fallout games we would have gotten if, say, id Software made them instead of Bethesda. Unfortunately, this footage is all we have of the game so far. The developer has not yet released a playable build as of yet, but it's been in development for 5 years and an official trailer dropped just a few months ago, so a release might actually be on the horizon soon. Now, if you want something you can jump into right now with friends, play online in PvPvE combat with a complex survival system, open world, and tons of unique loot, well, Fallout Z is one to check out. It is a recreation of the Fallout world inside dayz. I dove headfirst into it for a video, and while it can look a little rough around the edges, the moment-to-moment gameplay really does feel like a proper Fallout survival experience. There's extensive vaults to explore with plenty of weapons and gear to loot. Entire sections of cities are bombed out. You've got traders, iconic Fallout landmarks, Pip-Boys, and of course, lots of ghouls. Obviously, it's not a replacement for Fallout 76, and your experience will vary depending on the server. Fallout Z is more of a mod pack with assets that you can use to build a server with versus a singular cohesive experience. And in some ways, it's pretty obvious that this is dayz wearing a Fallout skin. But at the same time, I think that could actually be seen as a strength. There's been tons of hardcore or survival sim mods for the various Fallout games that make sweeping changes or overhauls to how they play, but at the core, it's still a Fallout game, and you can basically ignore so many of those survival mechanics in favor of just killing and looting anything that moves. Actually having to loot smart to survive and not just worry about other players or zombies, but also your own hunger and energy levels adds a ton of dimension that makes this experience more interesting and fits perfectly into the Fallout vibe, so it's really much more of a hybrid game. But the end result is still very impressive and an experience that I want to exist in, and I can easily see it growing into something much bigger as servers build on it and create their own distinct Fallout experiences. Now this next game is certainly one of the more impressive ones in terms of its scope and originality. Ashes 2063. It's not a direct Fallout mod though, with both Fallout and Stalker-like influences. The game itself can easily stand on its own as its own world and idea. It's another GZ Doom project, but calling it a mod kind of undersells exactly what it is. It is a full-on standalone experience with its own world, story, and characters. It's set in a post-nuclear apocalypse where the only rule of the land is basically kill or be killed. There's a huge storyline with unique missions and NPCs spread across a surprisingly large wasteland, complete with hub areas and open spaces to explore on foot or by motorcycle. On top of that, there's traders, a ton of guns, destructible environments, crafting, and more. Standing between you and the next objective is a mix of biker gangs, feral animals, mutants, and of course, worse things than that. And yes, it even has its own expansion, adding a huge amount of additional content, including new areas, weapons, and missions. It does lean into more of the Doom style pacing though, with faster movement and arena-heavy combat. So in some ways it doesn't feel modern, but what it lacks in some of the modern conveniences, it makes up for almost everywhere else. For example, the variety of combat is truly impressive. The levels have their fair share of corridors and combat arenas, but there's also plenty of open areas, interesting pathways, and more true-to-life structures like gas stations and highways that make the world feel a little less gamey and more like an actual place with an actual backstory. Honestly, it's kind of surprising that Ashes 2063 never ended up as a commercial release, considering that it seems to be somewhat safe from the bigger IPs. But generally, when a mod project starts off free and is community driven, it rarely transitions over to a paid-for experience. That said, it is totally available on GOG as a single convenient download, which makes it far easier to get into than your average modding experience. Now, I'd be curious if you guys have come across any great total conversion mods lately. It's always fun finding some gems out there that maybe don't get a lot of publicity but are actually fantastic. Modding has exploded in recent years thanks to better tools and more ambitious community projects showing up. And if you want to see just how far that's come, check out my latest video on RTX Remix, a wild modding tool that lets you remaster classic games with modern rendering features like ray tracing. It's genuinely mind-blowing tech, and anyone with a relatively modern PC can try it out for free right now. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.